I think it was destiny.
Wow, okay.
Yeah, I think this journey started way back before I even knew that I'm going to come here. I just felt that urge. I need to see the world. I need to go somewhere where I can find myself. And I remember I was sitting at my previous job. I was performing a duty at Ministry of Defense, and
which I'm excited to talk about as well. Yeah.
So I was sitting with my colleague. He opened a newspaper and he was like, Emirates Airline, they're hiring a flight attendants. Why don't you join? You're tall and you fit into the criteria. I was like, where is Dubai? I really didn't know. It was not familiar at the time. There was no, obviously, airlines traveling to Bosnia and connecting Emirates. So no one knew about Dubai. And I remember 2 weeks after that, there was an open day, and I just signed up. I turned up for an interview, not knowing where am I going, what to expect. I Googled a little bit, Dubai, and I saw Burj Khalifa. That was it. Burj Al Arab. That's all I knew. But I think they got me on the first day.
Really?
They were holding a presentation about wonderful life in Dubai, and obviously the traveling part and the Emirates airline. And I knew I had to be there. But not many people know I didn't pass the test first time.
Really? Why is that?
I think I wanted it too bad.
Okay.
When you say I was too intense in wanting something, and it's like, imagine flashing a spotlight into a person and they cannot see you, and I was, I think, screaming. My energy was screaming, I want to be there, I want to be there, but I think it blinded them in a way.
But how does that when you want something so bad, how does that manifest in your personality? Is it overly energetic? Is it too much excitement? Were you nervous? What was going on?
I think I was nervous. And also, when you want something too much, but you're not aligned with it, then it kind of confuses the universe, as I say. It confuses the frequencies. So you emit that wanting frequency and fear at the same time of what if what if I don't succeed? What if I fail? So I think it's a confusion.
Do you think also that can get misconstrued as desperation? Because there's a saying, right? There's no deodorant for desperation. You can't hide it. But and I've had this myself in my career, when I've gone for roles that we talk about destiny. I just know I'm the best for that particular role, from my hard skills, from my soft skills, but maybe I've got through sort of 3 or 4 interviews and I've just somehow managed to blow it with one particular person. For whatever reason, it just didn't, like you say, the energy, the flow was just not quite there. Is that what happened?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay.
Obviously, I realized years later, but at the time I wasn't sure what happened.
But how did you rectify that?
I was a little bit disappointed, and on the way back home, I turned on the radio and I remember it clearly. The Celine Dion song was singing, "When you want it the most, there's no easy way out."
Okay.
So I was thinking, it was encouraging, and it reminded me to wait and to be patient. And if it's what I want, it will happen, but I just gotta align myself with it. So I was like, okay, I'm going home, but it's gonna happen the next time. And I knew it. In 6 months' time, I applied again, and I came to the interview perfectly calm. Like I said, I knew somewhere deep down that it's going to happen.
Wow,
maybe
so
not
good.
this time, maybe in another 6 months, but I was already okay with where I was, and kind of trusting the universe, to say, letting go, let it happen. And everything was smooth from the first contact to the second day. We had a lot of teamwork exercises, and the final was English test. The interview was happening 2 days later, and it went really fast.
Yeah. See, I can't possibly imagine that you could ever come across as nervous, or I just can't, because you're so confident as well. And so you got through that second phase, and my wife Zara, who you know, I think she talked about there's a thing called the golden call, which is where they call you to tell you whether you've been selected, because you have to go through all of those stages. What was that like when that happened?
Well, I'm writing a book currently, and the second chapter is called the golden call.
Really? Okay.
Yes, because it really representing another stage in your life. It was fantastic. I remember the day I saw a foreign number, and I was like, oh my God, it's the first time I'm speaking English as well. What am I going to do? Okay, hello. And you get this, you got the job. we'll send you a ticket, you just got to be ready. And it was like a rushed moment of mix of excitement, fear. I don't know, it was beautiful.
Is it literally you get your tickets within a couple of weeks and you're gone?
I had 1 month to prepare.
Okay. You had a role? You were working at the time, or?
Yes,
okay.
I did, and it was very, very emotional for me because I had to give up on my, long career in military. It's even, I still feel emotional talking about it because it was my dream career. I was always dreamed of becoming a first general, female general in Bosnia. At the time, I was very, how would I say, passionate young woman, wanting to prove myself and wanting to achieve a lot more than I could, I would say, at the time.
So how did you rationalize that then? So if you had a dream and then you were looking at transferring that to something that you could argue, and I'm going to put this out there, I'm not saying that it is, but maybe something that's more selfish when you look at, the career that's coming to Dubai, could be, I'm not saying that it is, but it could be perceived as less altruistic and potentially more selfish. Dubai. How did you rationalize that?
Well, it felt a little bit like even a personal betrayal on some level. I thought I was a patriot, but back then, I still am. I love my country, but obviously when you're in military, your purpose is heightened. Everything around it is just serious and powerful, and I needed to become less to become more, to become me, because military and the way I was brought up was a path of discipline, a path of hardship. I was more of a follower than a doer. I would listen rather than say, and I knew I had to develop that other side of me, and the only way I can do it is to leave everything I know and literally go into the unknown and just explore.
Which is ironic though, because you said I needed to become less to become more. That step of going out into the deep unknown, packing up, leaving what was your dream role, which has all of that construct of patriotism, love for your country, making that change and then going to a completely foreign country and then taking a new role is actually part of that. You could argue is actually part of that path instantaneously of becoming more, because it's such a challenge for someone.
It is. And to mention that I've never flown a plane before. I signed up for a job that I didn't even know if I can handle physically, or I just packed my suitcase, 20 kg, that was it. And obviously it was a lot heavier than I thought. We always think, suitcase is 20 kg. The truth is memories, is people you leave behind, relationships. It was a lot heavier to carry.
That's such a good metaphor. And so when you arrived, you are grappling with all of this, not only that you'd never been in an aeroplane. So you'd never been in an aeroplane. You're hopping on an aeroplane to get to a brand new country with a completely different culture. And from what I understand, and again, this is just secondhand from what my wife Zara has told me, the training is pretty intense when you arrive in Dubai. And how long does that take before you actually go and start flying?
2.5 months, approximately.
Okay, and you become a soupy, is that correct? Is like the first, is that the right terminology?
Yes.
Yeah.
Soupy is our first flight where we don't operate, but we're just an observer.
Okay.
But since you mentioned first flight, that was a special for me. I mean, as anybody else's, but going back to 96, just after the war, I'm from Bosnia, and Bosnia was going to a rough time from 92 to 95, being in a civil war. And obviously, there was no hope back then. I started going to school in 96 and 97. And that year, we got a gift, like a donation box from all the children around the world. They were sending us. Obviously, they were compassionate enough to care for us and send us these beautiful boxes. And in one of them, there was a set of postcards. I remember at that time, obviously, I didn't know where each country was. I didn't know about China, And then on these postcards, they were pictures from people from China with, obviously, the facial shape that is different than ours. It was the first time that I saw that someone looks different than I am. And then I developed this, strong curiosity. Oh, my God. Where are these people? Where do they come from? Is there anything else apart from this little village that we're living in? What's happening? I really, really developed strong curiosity. And yes, in 2015, my first flight's supposed to be Munich, but the night before it changes to Hong Kong.
Really?
Yes. So my excitement was beyond. I did not sleep at all. I think the flight was at 3 a.m. I just couldn't sleep. I went straight with, I was ready. I showed up. I was so excited. And even the trip to Hong Kong was very special. My friend and colleague, she advised, let's go to see Big Buddha. I was like, well, you know what? It's my first time. I want to go anywhere. Just take me. So when we were climbing the cable car towards the Big Buddha site, I felt like that strange feeling of deja vu. Like, I've been here, I've done this. It sounds familiar, it looks familiar. And the more I was getting closer to it, and I stood in front of this massive staircase, going towards Big Buddha, and I realized, oh my God, it's the postcards. So I still feel like, that was that moment I froze. I started crying literally, and then they was asking me like, Alma, what's happening? I'm like, the postcards. It's exact same image from back in 96.
Wow. And that was your first flight?
Yes, that was my first flight. And then I knew, obviously, it was meant to be. It was meant to be for me. I get quite emotional about it.
No, I can
I'm
imagine.
still practicing, to tell the story with excitement, obviously, and with passion and emotions, but it's tricky.
And with your book, it's a memoir, correct?
Yes.
Do you talk in depth about those emotions, that kind of the energy,
Yes.
and how that's driven your destiny?
Actually, the book starts with that specific moment.
Okay.
And then obviously going back to where it all started.
And before we get to the memoir, I've got 2 teenage kids, right? I've got a close to 18-year-old son and a 15-year-old daughter. Let's just hypothetically say that they were thinking about getting into the type of career, being cabin crew for a large, amazing airline like Emirates. I mean, it's as good as you get, right? That the team is as good as you get. The brand is as good as you get. It is the premium airline in the world. What advice would you give to a young man, a young woman who is thinking about the idea of becoming cabin crew for an airline like Emirates?
Go for it.
Go for it?
Go for it, even if it's for a year, for 2, even if you think you will not find yourself in that job, but it's worth taking the risk. It's worth coming to Dubai. It's worth coming and work for Emirates Airline. It's the best experience I've ever had. And I think even when I'm 80 years old, I'm still going to say it's the best experience I've ever had. It's how I met you. It's how I met Zara and a lot of wonderful people who helped me find myself. So I'm sure that whoever is having that even like a slight, wish and desire to come here, it's a calling. I think it's a calling, and they should all respond to it.
And you say something that really resonates with me, and that's around, when you're 80, you'll still be telling those stories. And I think, this is such a cliche for me to say this, but life is made up of those experiences that we have, right? And often I think about whether it's people, whether it's opportunities, whether it's travel plans that I didn't take, those are the things that I regret the most in life. All of the things you do and that you try, and especially when it requires bravery, right?
Yeah.
And there's no doubt with your story, it requires bravery for you to be able to take that step, to be able to pack up, like you say. There's the physical baggage and there's a metaphorical baggage that the memories that you're taking to another country. That requires bravery. And I think if there's one thing I could try to impart to my kids and the youth when they're looking at that next step, my son said to me the other day, he goes, Dad, I just feel lost. And I said, that's good, because it means that you're at the very least you're thinking about what is the next step. And I feel that the biggest sin in life is just to bumble your way through life and not take risks and not be brave and not do things like you've done as well.
Yeah, I think my motto now became the greatest risk is not taking the risk.
Yeah,
No.
totally.
It's like, I always ask myself, I know, not, but in a funny way, what's the worst that can happen? I mean, you end up going back to the old ways. You can always go back to where you are and where you came from and who you were. Well, not who you were, obviously you changed. But if it feels too strange, you can always go back.
No, I completely agree. And I would add a sort of caveat to that as well. I think that, our memories and our happiness is built on risk, but with a caveat. A smart person learns to mitigate risk as well. Take the risk, but build some form of guardrails around that risk so that the outcome is not too I mean, I think when I was a young man riding motorbikes and just being a general idiot, you know, I would say to my son, take risks, but yeah, try and not be as stupid as I was. I was pretty stupid. But in your memoir, you talked about working for the Ministry of Defence, and you said that you've talked about your time at Emirates as cabin crew. How do you, in writing the memoir, those two things they're very exciting topics to any reader. How do you balance that in the book? Do you go into your work at the Ministry of Defence? Do you talk a little bit about that?
Yes, well, it was Armed Forces of Bosnia and Herzegovina, which is a Ministry of Defence. So I was a soldier.
Of course. Look, I'm going to say, you know what I was looking at your LinkedIn, and you've done urban terrain and counter ambush training. And I've got no comment. So it just sounds amazing. It sounds very interesting.
Yeah, it does sound like a G.I. Jane. Okay, so yeah, like I said, military was my dream job. I was raised in a country where the only thing familiar was a camouflage uniform, a rifle, hiding, seeking shelter, protecting, war. I mean, it's all the shades of greenery you can imagine. But for me, even though it was not normal for a child to be raised in that environment, but it was all I knew, and it felt familiar. In 2009, 2010, we were one of the first countries actually that were accepting women in the combat units. And I wasn't thinking that will allow me to go to military, because it was still a bit, how would I say, not accepted by the society and the culture that I was living in. But I don't know, something in me was just like, go for it, you know. And
can I just ask, when you say it wasn't accepted, it was maybe starting to be accepted. It wasn't accepted in the society and the culture that how would you describe the culture that you were living in at that time? 2009, you started in 2010 and then did 5 years, correct?
Yes.
So what was the culture like, and how did that sort of fit with a young woman, joining the armed forces effectively?
Well, there is a specific place for a woman, and that is in the kitchen. I remember even doing sports from a young age, lifting weights, but I think the only acceptable weight that I could carry was an iron pan. That was the only acceptable weight. And yeah, since young age, I felt I need to break that. Whatever it is, it didn't feel natural. It felt like a sabotage. It felt like enormous pressure that I didn't know how to deal with it. I've seen my mom, my grandma, and all the women in the neighborhood, and I felt their suffering for something. And like I said, as a young girl, I didn't understand what it was, and I just felt I need to go out there and prove that I can do it, we can do it at the time. Even though now I realize that all I needed was appreciation for being a woman, or for doing the roles that we do, because being a mother, being a housewife is a wonderful thing. You're nourishing your family, you're nourishing generation, you're raising generations, you're shaping the world. But no one was giving enough appreciation for it. And that, I think, this is the only thing that we women at the time, we wanted. So yeah, joining the military was a win-win for me. There was nothing else I could do. I was a fierce young woman. I love sport. It was like, oh my God, I can go to the military and I can jump and run as much as I can, and I would be rewarded for it. Well, instead of kind of judged for it, to say. But just the decision to join the military was a judgment. The decision to join the military was judged by the society, because it was not a place for women. Not because we could do it, we can do it, but I think the men were not ready for us, and we were not ready for them in their truest form, because military specific institution is training you to lose your identity. Whoever you are, man or female, it does not matter. You are a number, you're an entity that has a duty to perform, to serve, to protect. I'm not going to mention the word to kill, but that's just, you're trained to be soulless in a way. It's a contrast world. Even my whole book is written as a contrast. Love and war, and at the same time, being gentle, being strong. It's a mad world. And I'm still confused about certain things. It's, like I said, I don't think we can fit into podcast everything that needs to be said. That's why I wrote 300 pages.
So your book, it's a memoir. You talk specifically about your time here in Dubai and Emirates, and also your time in the Ministry of Defence. What was you talked about your first day at Emirates, and that was 5 years after you'd started being in the army.
Yeah.
What was your first day like at the army, when you had, like you said, these cultural construct that was not necessarily there to support you to take this type of role, but it's your first day and you arrive. I mean, can you take me through that? What was it like?
Well, it was a cold winter day, 25th of January 2010.
Wow, okay.
My dad, my mom and sister, they came with me, and we drove off maybe like hour and a half away to the barracks where I was supposed to obviously report to. Yeah, it was so cold. It was just under Bielasnica mountain.
Okay.
You know, you could just feel the snow, like they're squeaking under your feet. And we were told not to bring anything. It was just a little bag of hygiene until they give us their own goods. But it went quite fast. We had maybe 10 minutes to say goodbyes to our families, and then we could already hear the shouting and screaming, you know, get in lines. It's hard to shout commands in English. In Bosnian, I would be a lot more better. Yeah, it started. But I think we were so excited. It felt like a scene from the movie. I remember men were already forming a two line, and women were a bit separated. This is still, they really didn't know what to do with us. And soon after that, we went and we took our uniforms. Like I said, it was just happening really fast. That even to me, it's a little bit, I don't know what went with what order. Yeah, the uniforms were baggy. It was total mess. The military boots were so heavy. We were looking at each other and we're like, well, you know what, let's just go along and see what's going to happen. And I remember my friend, but at the time we were just roommates. He says, like, we can do it. We got to do it. Let's support each other. And I think we changed. We went for lunch. And after that, introduction. That was much the first day.
What was your friend's motivation? Was it similar to yours? So that the lady that you shared a room with and you've got to know her, did she have a similar motivation to yours to join what was her motivation?
Well, being in the military, part of the military in Bosnia, it means you have a secure job. So it's kind of status oriented. And yeah, people don't see it through the lens of patriotism or through the lens of, like I did, a woman who needed to say something and to be someone. And so, I was driven in a different way, which resulted of me being actually one of the most successful soldiers. I had the best results. It was just my playground, and I loved every single of it. But again, the training was amazing. In 3 months' time, the repetition and consistency, they made a better people out of us. Obviously better soldiers as well. But
in what way?
Whoever needed the discipline, whoever needed to feel a purpose or any sense of power. No, and when I say power, I don't mean strength. I mean strength.
I understand.
And I was 21. I just turned 21, and we were all young and brave, I would say, and driven, but I was separate. I was high on the military life, really.
And when you say that you achieved, you were achieving the top results, like in what way? How do they quantify that in the army? Is it the physical side, the mental side? Yeah. How's that quantified? Give me an example.
Well, you have like 3 tests throughout 3 months training. Entry test. Then you obviously have a knowledge test as well. A physical test was to perform as many push-ups under 2 minutes and abs, and to run 3.2 kilometers. Obviously you had...
With a full pack?
No. This was just, like I said, normal. But obviously you had certain standards to perform, and the faster you run, the better result. And then we had a knowledge test as well. The second test, it was already including the shooting part. So we were trained obviously on M60 and M16 as well.
The M60 has the underbarrel, right? Is that right? Or the M60 is the heavy...
M60 is a machine gun.
The heavy one, yeah.
It's a heavy one. It's a 10 kg without the magazine. So I had a privilege to carry it on a march for 21 kilometers, and I could feel its power without even shooting a bullet. Yeah, but it's my favorite weapon. And the third test also was exit test, and obviously if you trained well, if you done your test well, then obviously that would show that you you were a good soldier.
So what happens after you've done your training? Are you deployed? Is there peacekeeping? What's the kind of construct?
For me, it was a little bit different because as being the best soldier, I had the privilege to choose the unit that I want to work in. So I was drawn to military police, and that was it. But for other soldiers, they were transferred into units all around Bosnia and Herzegovina without obviously being able to choose. And yeah, so for me it was a choice, but for others it wasn't a choice.
Okay, and what does the military police entail? How would you describe that?
I have a chapter in my book as well. It's called G.I. Jane. The first moment when I went into the barracks after the training, and the military did not look like the military at all.
Okay.
You know, the idea that I had about perform, serve, mental toughness, you know, you need to look sharp, that was all scattered on the first day. I remember I walked into barracks and I'm like, where did I... This is not what I expected. I expected, you know, the American soldiers type of a looking people. I expected scenes from the movie, same what we had in the training center. But no, these people were just walking like it's a everyday job, going to a bank or somewhere, I don't know. And I felt a little disappointed. But there was a lieutenant walking with me and he said, Alma, this is not, I see your disappointment. This is not what you expected or what's happening. I said, no, it is not. The soldiers are not looking professional. They, you know, some of them were missing teeth, some of them were having, you know, hair let down, and even the women, and I was like, okay. But then he said something really that opened my eyes, you know. He made a comparison between being a soldier and being a fighter. He was like, what you see in movies, those are soldiers. Okay, movies are even different thing, but, you know, we had an opportunity to work with American military as well, and they do look professional. They have all the best logistics, the best equipment, perfect. But then he said, but these people, they are not forced to fight. There is a difference. What you see here in our barracks is people who experienced war. They did not choose war, you know. They were forced to defend themselves. They were fighters. And it's like, and he even said, you know, the soldiers are these stereotype of men who just pump and they're choosing war. They want to kill, they want to go out there and conquer and prove themselves. But he's like, these people here, they live the true horror. And they he's like, just give them the chance, give them the chance. But he said, if they need to fight, trust me, these people would probably perform even better than the trained American soldiers, because they have a heart, they have soul, they have that passion that they can ignite it at any second, you know. And there's no training for that. You cannot be prepared. It just literally takes it out of you, the survival mode, and that, you know, kind of calmed me down a little bit because I was.
Question for you: do the regular soldiers like the military police, or is there some friction between the two parts?
There is friction. I didn't think of it at the time, but yeah, everyone was looking at us a little bit with some sort of a distance, you know, because we don't have jurisdictions over, let's say, civilians, unless there is a serious government, serious like civil unrest. So the military police is only for the military, unless it goes to like the highest level of threat, to say. Yeah, so we were not favored. One of the job was I would go for a patrol and I would obviously find people that are not looking professional and I would have to record that. And they didn't like that. I would have to tell them, put on your hat, please. Well, there was no please actually, so no, put on your hat.
Put on your hat.
Or I will have to report you.
Yeah.
So yes.
And what was the scariest thing in that time where you were serving? Did you, that you can talk about, that you felt was the most confronting thing?
The scariest thing. Okay. Well, I was not deployed in a peace operation mission. I supposed to, but I chose not to go. And I think that was the time when I decided, when I was debating whether my purpose is to stay in military or not. You know, I was understanding the war, the politics, what's happening in the background, and I chose not to. But I would say the eye-opening moment for me and the ego breaker was when I was in a training camp. I have to speak about it. I will. Because my aim is to raise awareness about this, but it was the last military training, and we went on a mountain 2 kilometers above our barracks, and it was cold, it was damp. I still remember it. It was just not comfortable, and I remember in the middle of the night I got my period, and it was not pretty. It was 10 days earlier. And that was the time when I realized, oh my God, my body is not equipped for this. How do I handle this? I thought I'm invincible. I thought I'm a powerful woman and I can beat any man, and I was like, and yeah, I remember I went to my superior and I said, listen, I am not equipped for this. I need to go to the barracks now. And he said, do you need any help? He was helpful, but I saw he can't help me. There's nothing else he can do. But I was in so much pain. I was cold. I said my uniform was destroyed. I couldn't wait the morning and show blood on my uniform. So I decided to go alone down the hill, go to the barracks, change, take some painkillers as much as I could. And like I said, it was the night when I started questioning my body capabilities, whether we're capable of performing this duty. What would happen if I was in a war mission where I was supposed to protect and serve, but that stopped me. And I had no answers. But it was first time to how do you say it, just to start thinking about it. And then women body is it's different.
So you finished up at Emirates, and because one of the stories that I hear a lot, and where my wife Zara is different, is she finished up at Emirates, we left Dubai and came back to Dubai, and what I hear a lot is that when people finish up at the airline, they then go back to their home country. Did you leave Dubai and come back, or have you just stayed here since finishing up at as cabin crew?
I stayed here.
Okay. And did you have a plan?
No.
So honest.
I think no one had a plan during COVID, we were all living our best lives, and then suddenly the shutdown happened, and then we started asking questions. And I wanted to stay in Emirates for another 3 years at least, which will be like around 10 years. I felt I need more. I liked the lifestyle. I needed more. But then the greatest shock was the lockdown. And I think that was one of the toughest time in my life. Being forced to stay in the apartment for like 3 weeks. I know it's it's not a big thing.
It is a big thing. Mentally, it's a very, very challenging thing.
And I didn't know what to do. I had no plans. But that was the year when I actually decided to write a book. I met my partner as well, and he inspired me to keep writing. And I think the first draft was done that year. I had no plans, obviously, about who I want to reach, what I want to achieve with it. I just felt I need to bleed on the paper and get it over with, just let it out. And I didn't do much that year, except towards the end of the year, I found a new job. And since then, I'm in the construction world. It somehow was taking me, and I didn't plan for it, but it happened.
But you were determined to stay in Dubai. You felt that this is where your life is.
I wasn't determined, but at that moment I was letting go, and I was trusting the universe to take me where I'm supposed to be.
I believe in that.
Yeah. And I would go home, but I would feel it's not the time to come back.
But you have a place. You have a place in the forest, right? Whereabouts is that?
Well, I was born in a village, 1,000-meter height, 45 minutes from the Sarajevo and the airport. And I grew up there. 14 years I lived there. Even throughout the war, we were staying there. And even now, if I go there, I would go to visit my grandma and grandpa. Yeah. But it's a small village. It's like, even back in the 90s, it was 200 people living there. Now it's around 35 maybe.
Really?
Yeah.
It's a very small village.
A dying village.
It's interesting though. I would love to sort of get your thoughts on this, but as you know, Zara and I, we have a place in Italy, which is in the mountains, and we have Dubai, and we have a great apartment. So you have this modern, eclectic lifestyle in Dubai, and then you have this kind of escape, this beautiful escape into the mountains in Italy. We find that really balances us, able to have those two parts. Do you feel that way as well? Do you think you need that, or could you, at your age, at your sort of stage of your career, do you feel that you could spend most of your time in Dubai, or where do you sort of see the next couple of years?
I need to leave Dubai every 3 months.
Why is that?
The city is becoming too intense for me. And I like to take some time to just relax, wind down, and I think maybe even going back to who I was before, to reconnect to myself from before, because I'm forgetting slowly, and I don't want to forget. I don't want to forget everything, because when I'm here, obviously it's a different lifestyle, different energy, different people, and it helps me now to be normal when I go back home. I love the nature. I miss the forest. This is, I would say, the place where I thrive most. It's the forest.
It's interesting. I did a podcast with someone a couple of weeks ago, and they were talking about how where you are at a particular time, the geography, the city, wherever it is, it defines you. And one of the beautiful things I think about Dubai is that if you're here for segments of time and you leave it intermittently and come back, it could be your base. But when you do that, you're getting, because it's geographically so close to everything, you can, and it's so accessible, and it's relatively cheap to be able to sort of zip and go to different countries, or to be able to go back to your hometown. You don't fall into too much of that glitz and glamour and that hustle, and like you say, the energy. That there is a driving force here that can be quite overwhelming in Dubai, whether it's the traffic, the hustle, the cost, just the pace of the place. Whereas I think that the people who are truly happy here, like you and how you describe that, is if you can not dip in and dip out, because I see Dubai as my home, and I'm sure you do as well. It's your base, it's your spiritual center, but recognize that you actually need to go to other areas to be able to not cleanse, but to be able to take time out as well.
But I think it's also because of the cabin crew career. I feel the whole world is my place, is my home. So it's not just Dubai. It's just, I miss that, being able to go to Australia and then go to China or go to Norway. I miss that feeling. I was free back then, and I crave that feeling even now. I want to be able to travel and be wherever I want to be at a certain moment, and so
I can see that in Zara as well. She's constantly pushing to move. It's that sort of desire to keep on traveling. Tell me, as we wrap up, looking at the book, I'd love to know, when are you intending to publish the book? I'm sure you get asked that all the time. And also, I mean, what's next for Alma? I mean, you're still working in construction here. What's next for you over the next sort of 5 to 10 years?
Well, the book started in 2021, And finally, after 4 years, I'm able to say, and I'm happy to say, that it's finally finished in Bosnian. Yes,
congratulations.
In Bosnian language.
Okay.
And now I've just hired an editor in English who's going to go through it and hopefully give a green light 2 months' time, and then it will be ready for publishing.
Congratulations.
Thank you. But I don't want to rush it. It's too special. I think the reason why I even kind of overthinking it this long, because I wanted to make sure that every paragraph is, how would I say, thought through, because it has a meaning, and the message that I want to send to the world, it's my life, it's my experience, and I don't want anything to go unnoticed. So even though the book itself, it's not a story of success. It's more a story of disaster, I would say.
Tribulations, challenges, which makes the best stories.
And I hope, whoever reads it tomorrow, that they're going to create their own little world, and it will reach people who were in similar situation that I was. And like I said, it's not enough to speak about it in 1 hour. Because it's multi-dimensional book, full of contrasts, it's full of questions that you need to stay with it for a little bit longer. And obviously, it's written in Bosnian language, which is my first language, and I hope the English version will be as beautiful as the Bosnian. Obviously, it's not going to get lost in translation.
So, likely in the next 6 months, we can expect to see it.
For sure, if not before. I think I will aim even 3 months.
Have you decided, as we look at the next 5 to 10 years for you, I mean, is there more duality for your life in the coming 5 to 10 years? Do you have a master plan, or is it just kind of, are you just at that point where it's like, you know what, let's see what the universe serves up?
It's more that second option. The time stopped for me at some point. I can't describe it, but the book actually ends with that same topic, that I cannot think about time as I used to before. So a minute for me, sometimes it feels like hours, and sometimes hours feels like a minute. And so is my life, my age, my existence. It's just does not have time or place, or it's basically, I am the home that I carry everywhere. And a little bit of surprise from the universe is welcome. So I strategically plan a little bit, because obviously I'm trained for that. But I think the real beauty is just to letting go a little bit as well. As I don't see myself being fixated in one place on earth. I'm happy to be here 3 months a year in Dubai, 3 months in Bosnia, in Thailand, or traveling definitely will be part of my life. That's one thing that I'm sure. And having animals. I'm not sure yet in what quantity. Could be a farm, could be, but this is what I see, what I feel. Where, and I don't know. I'm open to that universe to guide me.